appeared on Doordarshan.
का बच्चा घमंडी कहीं का अपने आप को अंग्रेज समझता है।
जानता है इसके पिताजी कौन है?
Classics from different Indian languages were adapted for television during this period, and the works of old masters brought alive dramatically and made accessible to the masses. The serial based on the life and times of the great Urdu poet Mirza Ghalib was one such memorable example.
गालिब के बारे में इतना ही कह सकता हूँ कि मेरा कोई 11-12 साल 13 साल का उसमें रिसर्च वर्क था जो मैंने किया था, और उसके बाद उस जगह पे आ गया था इंडस्ट्री में जहाँ पे उस पर फिल्म बनाने को कोई तैयार नहीं था। बतौर एक्टर के गालिब प्ले करने के लिए मुझे नसीर से बेहतर कोई एक्टर नजर नहीं आया था। हालांकि कोई मुत्तफिक नहीं था मेरे साथ जिस वक्त शुरू किया था। दूसरे जगजीत जिनकी आवाज़ कमाल की उनके साथ मैच करती थी। मेरा ख्याल है गालिब बहुत बार गाया है जगजीत ने, लेकिन उस तरह से नहीं गाया जिस तरह से गालिब ने गाया।
हर एक बात पे कहते हो तुम कि तू क्या है, तुम ही कहो कि ये अंदाज़े गुफ्तगू क्या है।
Namaskaram. There was Surabhi, a long-running cultural magazine with a wonderfully light touch that imaginatively unveiled the fascinating diversity that underlies our multi-layered identity.
Surabhi was about the whole of India. It is inclusive, not just about urban India or elite India. And Doordarshan as a public service organization, I think, was the ideal venue. We said the longest time, it ran 11 years actually on prime time on Doordarshan national network. It became my life. I learned so much from it. I discovered myself, I think.
Even shorts and fillers designed to communicate socially relevant messages acquired iconic status. The Freedom Run galvanized hundreds of millions, and the soul-stirring Mile Sur Mera Tumhara charged them with patriotic fervor. It continues to inspire and enthrall millions melodiously.
मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा तो सुर बने हमारा।
भीमसेन जोशी के साथ ट्रैक शुरू हुआ तो मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा, और फिर हम दूसरों के पास लेके गए, जैसे बाल मुरली कृष्णा हो, who did the Carnatic track. இருவரே சுரமும் நவதாகும்
இசை வேறானாலும் ஆழிசேர் ஆறுகள் முகிலாய் மழையாய் பொழிவது போல் இசை நம் இசை।
और ऐसे जो भी म्यूजिशियंस हैं उन्होंने अपनी वर्जन कंट्रीब्यूट की, और जो म्यूजिशियंस नहीं थे जिनको सिर्फ प्लेबैक करना था वो हमने खुद कंपोज कराया फॉर्मली। और उन जमाने में एक म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर था वैद्यनाथन, ऑल्सो पास्ट अवे नो मोर, तो उन्होंने सब कंबाइन करके अलग अलग पीसेस बनाए। एक बार पूरी फिल्म शूट हो गई तो फिर लुई ने इसको पूरा साथ में ब्रिज कराया।
सुर की नदियाँ हर दिशा से बहके सागर में बादलों का रूप लेकर बरसे हल्की हल्की मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा।
Gulf War brought about a paradigm shift in television news coverage the world over.
Major airstrikes in the back.
Cable television became the buzzword, and brought live war coverage to Indian homes for the first time. The revolution in the communications world continued unabated, and satellite-based transmission rendered obsolete existing regulatory mechanisms. Independent channels, both Indian and foreign, entered the scene. It was clear that Doordarshan too would have to respond to emerging challenges, both technological and creative. Doordarshan, hitherto a government monopoly, geared up for competition. Many bold initiatives were taken in the 1990s. Hardware and software were upgraded to keep the production of news in step with the changes. Private-public partnerships were forged to ensure that the country didn't lag behind the rest of the world. The 1991 election coverage was objective and extremely impressive on account of high-tech virtuosity. Nothing like this had been seen on DD before this. Magazine programs focusing on current affairs, such as News Track and The World This Week, commanded a large and influential viewership.
Good evening and welcome.
DD3 was a lively but short-lived venture that targeted the cerebral segment of the audience.
Betrayed. But in this book, Kundera has moved away from the light satirical tone of his earlier novels to a more literary preoccupation with the artist and his craft.
Doordarshan came up with its Metro channel in 1993, dedicated to pure entertainment. In 1997, the Prasar Bharati Act was passed in the Parliament to make Doordarshan and Akashvani autonomous. The Supreme Court had declared the airwaves to be free and in the public domain. The legislation strove to bridge the gap between the traditional and the contemporary. It reflected the spirit of self-confidence as well as resilience that characterized India after years of independence. It coincided with the changing temper of the times, both at home and abroad. Liberalization of the economy had unleashed a rising tide of expectations. For long it had been felt that Indian democracy had matured since independence, and there was no need to fetter radio and television with colonial controls. Several high-powered committees and commissions appointed by the government had recommended this in the past. Prasar Bharati seemed the realization of an old dream, a fruition of many aspirations. Since then, more than a decade has passed, and a lively public debate is raging about the future of television in India and Doordarshan's role as a public broadcaster.
सरकार से हमें कोई लेना देना नहीं है।
टेलीविजन केवल समाचार नहीं है, टेलीविजन के साथ बहुत कुछ जुड़ा है।
खबर का अपने आप में खबर है, मैं उसको खबर की दृष्टि से देखता हूँ।
और राखी सावंत को दिखाते जरूर है, लेकिन कैमरा फोकस कहाँ होता है? इसलिए
वो showing things that do not exist.
मुझे हमेशा लगा है कि दूरदर्शन और प्राइवेट चैनल्स के बीच में संवाद होना चाहिए।
While private television channels are motivated primarily by the profit motive and continue to bombard viewers with escapist fare, Doordarshan continues to be synonymous with healthy, wholesome programs, enriching diversions for the entire family.
So the public service broadcasting has to be for the citizen primarily rather than for the consumer, so the consumer has its own role and its place.
A public broadcaster, I don't believe, has any business to be in the business of business. You have to empower people, and television is one way of empowering people, and that can only be done if they're not there to compete with private channels.
Sports is an arena that was dramatically transformed by Doordarshan. The rise of Indian cricket and the way it has come to dominate people's imagination can't be viewed and assessed properly unless the impact of nationwide telecasts of cricket matches is taken into account. Advertisers and sponsors were quick to spot the possibilities, and the game flourished when hundreds of millions could share in the excitement of what was happening in a distant stadium. The thrills and spills were literally brought home, not only from the cricket pitch, but also from the field and track. Doordarshan has covered with distinction the